Okay, welcome back. Now, I know I have some skeptics there, and I also know that some of you are there just to come back and find out the why. I've sparked your interest. Now, so far we've really only talked concepts. And one of the reasons for that is I haven't talked too much detail about how much time you need to invest in sprint interval training. And one of the reasons is, if I'd have told you in the concepts only that literally 12 minutes per week can make massive changes in your fat burning and improving your cardiovascular health, that might be too much without some whys. Okay? So for a lot of you out there, whether you're a clinician talking to a patient, a personal trainer talking to a new client, trying to change the way they're working out, get them off the treadmill an hour at a time, this long, slow, continuous, and do the sprint interval training. Or simply if you're talking to your friends and family, you've got Mary and Bob that are spending hours on the treadmill, they're still overweight, they haven't improved their fitness level very much, and they're investing all this time with little success. You're going to be very excited, you're going to talk to them, and what's going to happen? They're going to go, no way. There is no way that 12 minutes a week could do what you're telling me it's going to do. That's why you need the why. All right? So we're going to do this in two ways. The first way, and the most important way for most people, is a common sense why. Why does sprint interval training work so well for fat burning and for improving cardiovascular health? The second why, we'll get in a little bit more into the science. So, we're going to start off with the common sense why. One of the things I really find useful is an image. So, I want all of you now to etch this on your brain whenever you're talking to other people. Right here, Exhibit A, we've got a marathon runner, long-distance elite athlete. And right here, we have a sprinter. What are most people trying to look like when they go to the gym? Right here. Who do you think looks the healthiest? I know, I think this looks a lot healthier. No doubt about it. So, we can already start to go, well, that's a pretty powerful image for us to realize that maybe this is the way to train. Sprinters train, guess what? Mostly with sprint interval training, as opposed to the long, slow, continuous exercise. So those are very, very important images. So in the common sense approach, let's think of those images. What are some huge differences with these two athletes here? First of all, you'll notice the lean muscle mass. The muscle mass in the sprinter is much, much higher. Much more muscle mass. What does muscle do? I think a lot of us know muscle is basically an active engine. It's burning fuel. It has what we call a metabolic effect. It's burning calories. Fat, all right, doesn't do that. So we want to build lean tissue in order to burn fat. So basically, you think of the sprinter as a Ferrari with a high-octane engine, all right? My marathon runner is a diesel engine. It can go all day long, but at low, slow intensity. It's not burning the fuel unless it's chugging along. The sprinter, and if you do sprint interval training, you're burning fuel even when you're not working out. That's why you don't need to be doing long, slow, continuous for hours and hours at a time. You're still working out after you finish, say, 60 seconds of sprinting. You're working out for another 15 minutes maybe. And then your overall metabolism is up because of the increased muscle mass. So that's the first thing, much more muscle mass. Now, they're both lean, but actually research has shown the sprinter's actually leaner. They have less fat than even the marathon runner, as thin as this athlete looks. But the main thing I want you to get that is the muscular part of it. Much more muscle. The other thing, if we looked at these training programs of these two athletes, this athlete is training about a 20th of the time of this athlete. And so it comes back down to that time frame. So if you think, well, right now I'm putting in 3-4 hours a week and you take a 20th of that, we're starting to come down to those numbers of 12 minutes per week because it's quality, not quantity. So we understand that increasing muscle mass increases our basal metabolic rate. You're burning calories at rest at a higher level. So you burn the fat. And again, come back to these pictures. And science supports it too. Now, the other aspect that I always hear, people go, okay, so I'm sort of buying the fat loss, got it. Now, but cardiovascular, surely I've got to be able to do this 30, 60 minutes if I'm going to improve the cardiovascular system. This is a very easy one to understand. You actually challenge the cardiovascular system with stress. The simple physiological principle is the body adapts to stress. So ask yourself this question. If you're walking on a treadmill for an hour and you stop, how challenging was that? All right, I often do a little example where I say if I'm sitting down in a chair watching TV, no one expects me to get fit doing that. Well, what if I stand up? All right, if I stand up, I was burning more calories than sitting down, but so few. Well, yeah, but we're going to walk. So I start to walk and I'm walking along. Walking, if you realize it, is actually a modified fall. I take basically a step, to stop myself falling over. So we're very efficient at walking. We don't want to be efficient. Remember, we want to be like the high-octane Ferrari, not the diesel truck. So walking's efficient. Don't want it. Encourage it. Great to do. You'll burn some calories. But don't expect to see dramatic changes unless you do it 24/7. So then we start to jog. A little bit more calories. It's not until you start to run fast or sprint that you really increase the caloric expenditure. It's not a linear increase. It's exponential. All right? You suddenly take off. And the reason is you're having to raise your mass against gravity to get those long strides when you do that kind of intense sprinting. So we've seen it. You burn calories at about a 5-fold rate than when you're doing the long, slow stuff. All right? And as a consequence, you burn more calories during the activity, and as we've already said, your metabolism's going from that high quality, you're burning calories afterwards. But back to the cardiovascular system. Ask yourself this question. If you sprinted as fast as you could for 60 seconds, are you more out of breath after that or after going for a jog for an hour? Every time you're more out of breath after just 60 seconds of sprinting. So which one do you think has more of a challenge on the cardiovascular system? The sprint does. So you can improve your cardiovascular system much, much quicker if you take that approach. A last story for you. I'm going to take all of you to a stadium, and we're going to sprint up the stadium stairs. And this is for you to understand how little time is needed for change to occur. So we go to a big stadium, and I've got a big range of athletic ability. I've got some very deconditioned people. I've got some Olympic athletes. And there's enough steps even for the Olympic athletes. And I blow a whistle and I ask all of you to go as hard as you can for 60 seconds. So we start off, and I want you to imagine this right now. So you start, some of you are walking, some of you are jogging, some of you are sprinting. But either way, you're going, and within a very short period of time, within like 10, 15 seconds, you're starting to feel the burn in the legs, and you're starting to breathe pretty hard. At 30 seconds, this is significant. You're starting to feel almost a little bit of pain in the lungs a little bit. You're breathing heavy. The muscles are starting to get a bit of what we call lactic acid. They're really starting to feel the burn. At 45 seconds, you're hurting. And you're just hanging on. You can't wait for me to blow that whistle for 60 seconds to stop. And you're done. And what are you? You're breathing hard. Your lungs are hurting. Your legs are burning. There's a lot going on in the body right there. And guess what? It's got to adapt to that. As opposed to, you stop and you finished your hour's jog and you're like, how strenuous was that? You're back down to zero within seconds. So there's not a lot of adaptation going on. But with that sprint, you've got to adapt to it. So in fact, you believe it or not, you're actually better off if you did say 4 of those. That's 4 minutes. And have plenty of recovery, because I guess what? If I had you say, okay, you've got a minute's rest, we're going to do it again, most of you wouldn't make it halfway up the stairs. So to repeat that kind of quality, you need rest. Rest is a good thing. All right? Then I even encourage people, take a day's rest the next day. So you've done 4 minutes, taken a day's rest, you can go and do it again on the second day, but you've had a day's rest. Then take another day's rest, do it again. So you can do, say, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. That's simply 12 minutes per week. And your body will adapt to that huge exertion that it's gone through. It's common sense. I think most of you will be going, yeah, I get that. So if you did that for a period, let's say, of 2 months, that would be 30 sessions. All right? 30 sprints. That's all I'm saying. 30 sprints over the course of a 2-month period. So that's even going back to just doing 1 sprint every other day. All right? And you do that over the course of 2 months. I'll ask this question. Do any of you doubt that you can do a lot more steps on the day 60, the 30th time you do it, than you did on day 1? Every time I do this, everyone's like, well, of course, of course. So then you get it. You do get the fact that quality, not quantity, is how you get the body to change. Now, I'll say one final thing from the perspective of practicality. Am I going to go to the stadium stairs and do a sprint and then come back home to my office, do a sprint? No, you probably stay there, and that's a great way to train. So that's where, with what we're doing, the x-iser can be your stadium stairs. Right next to your desk at the office, you can get up, do a sprint, and you won't perspire, so you can get back to your desk, do the work. So you can train in these clothes, like I have done for the past 10, 15 years. And I've many times done as little as 8 minutes per week and got huge results. So it can be done. There's the simple whys. So for those of you who want a little bit more science, come back again and we'll get a little bit more detailed. But there's the why. That should empower you and give you some ammunition to handle any of those skeptics out there. So again, get to your sprinting.